In the aesthetic time capsule that was the 1990s, few beauty trends are as instantly recognizable or as controversial in retrospect as the infamous skinny eyebrow. Tweezed into near invisibility and shaped into high, dramatic arches, 90s eyebrows dominated red carpets, magazine covers, and teenage bathroom mirrors. The thin eyebrow trend of the 1990s was heavily influenced by fashion, film, and pop culture, with key figures in entertainment and modeling setting the tone. They were the hallmark of fashion icons like Pamela Anderson, Gwen Stefani, and Kate Moss. Their ultra-thin, often highly arched brows became iconic. This aesthetic was reinforced by high-fashion editorials, runway models, and makeup trends that emphasized minimalism and a more angular facial structure. The trend itself was a departure from the fuller, more natural brows of the 1980s and reflected broader beauty ideals of the decade, leaning toward a sleek, polished, sometimes androgynous look. Fashion magazines, TV shows, and music videos all contributed to spreading this standard. In particular, the grunge and minimalist fashion movements of the 90s embraced a more stripped-down appearance, and thin brows were seen as a way to frame the face while keeping the overall makeup look understated. Some of the trend's roots can also be traced back to earlier Hollywood glamour, particularly the 1930s and 1970s, when ultra-thin brows were also in vogue. However, the 1990s saw a unique combination of mass media influence and aggressive grooming techniques that made overplucked brows a defining beauty standard of the decade. But behind this thin line lies a much thicker narrative, one about beauty standards, self-image, gender politics, and the long-term impact of temporary trends. The real cost of 90s eyebrows, as it turns out, goes well beyond aesthetics. The first and most literal cost of the 90s eyebrow was physical. Achieving the look required constant plucking, waxing, or shaving, often to the point of irritation, redness, or ingrown hairs. The skin around the eyes is delicate, and daily or weekly trauma took its toll. What's more, many who embraced the trend in their teens or 20s later discovered that eyebrows don't always grow back. Overplucking damages the follicle, sometimes permanently. This repeated physical manipulation of the hair can result in traction alopecia, a type of hair loss caused by consistent pulling on the hair follicles. Over time, this stress can disrupt the normal hair growth cycle, triggering perifollicular inflammation, follicle miniaturization, and in some cases, permanent follicular damage. For countless women, the skinny brows of the 90s became a lifelong consequence. In recent years, as fuller, natural brows came back into fashion, thanks in part to celebrities like Cara Delevingne and Zendaya, many who once chased the thin brow ideal have had to turn to microblading, brow tattoos, serums, or transplants to undo the damage. The literal cost of reversing the trend, often thousands of dollars. At its core, the 90s eyebrow trend wasn't just about style. It was part of a broader culture of controlling women's bodies. Thin brows mirrored the thin body ideal of the time, waifish, fragile, easily molded. The era glorified minimalism, but also demanded constant maintenance. Women were expected to shrink themselves, literally and metaphorically, to fit a narrow definition of attractiveness. Eyebrows, small as they are, sit at the center of the face. They frame expression and identity. By reducing them to thin lines, the trend subtly erased boldness and individuality in favor of a hyper-curated, delicate aesthetic. It was beauty that required labor, but denied the appearance of effort, a hallmark of 90s femininity. For many, especially teenage girls coming of age in the 90s and early 2000s, eyebrows became a gateway into broader struggles with self-image. Beauty trends always target insecurities, but this one hit particularly hard. Eyebrow shape, more than almost any other feature, is difficult to change naturally, meaning those who didn't conform to the standard either felt left out or forced themselves into compliance through painful and damaging methods. What started as a beauty choice often became a ritual of control, a way of exerting mastery over one's appearance in a world filled with pressure and judgment. For some, thin brows became a symbol of perfectionism or anxiety, an attempt to fix what society said was wrong, not just with their face, but with their femininity. The 90s brow trend also carried cultural implications. Thick, natural brows were rejected in favor of the thin, arched shapes which aligned with Eurocentric beauty norms. Women with naturally thicker eyebrows were pressured to wax, thread, or pluck their brows into submission to appear professional or beautiful by Western standards. In retrospect, the trend not only reinforced these harmful standards, but also erased the beauty of diverse features. Today's resurgence of natural brows, especially with the rise of beauty influencers from varied racial and ethnic backgrounds, challenges those norms, but the scars of that erasure linger. Now, Decades later, the 90s brow is experiencing a strange form of cultural redemption, from ironic TikTok recreations to high-fashion revivals. But this time around, the trend is approached with a critical eye. People are more aware of the consequences and more open about the harm done, physically, emotionally, and culturally. What was once a silent ritual of self-policing is now part of an ongoing conversation about beauty, autonomy, and resilience. The real cost of 90s eyebrows wasn't just in lost hair or expensive treatments. It was in how a thin line could come to represent years of insecurity, conformity, and the pressures of a culture that valued appearance over well-being. Trends come and go, but their impact can last a lifetime. The 90s eyebrow may have seemed like just another fad, but its legacy cuts deeper, into the skin, the psyche, and the social norms that shape how people, especially women, are taught to see themselves. As we continue to question and redefine beauty standards, the thin brow stands as both a warning and a reminder. The cost of following the trend isn't always visible until it's too late.